So, first of all, welcome to the first episode of our podcast, Humans Behind CX. Uh, I am beyond excited to have you over here. Just for everyone who's looking at us, seeing us, we have Mr. Vikrant Gill. He is the Director of Customer and Market Insights at Fortrea, which is a global clinical research organization and powering the journey from lab to life. So, Vikrant, rather than me, telling people who you are, what you do, it will be really great if you can just brief us out. Then we'll move forward in terms of, your journey towards healthcare research, like CROs and all those particular things. So, a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dig into a little bit more how exactly, you're impacting CX over there.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Jesh. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here, Jesh. I think I'm excited for the first episode of Human Behind CX. I'm sure this is going to be a wonderful initiative where people will get to know the thoughts from the workers who are actually working in terms of the CX experience. I'm really excited to be here and talk about something I'm passionate about, which is the human side of clinical trials and how customer experience plays such a critical role in the healthcare. So really excited for the discussion, Josh.
Perfect. So, Vikrant, we'll start from a little bit about knowing you, your journey, and how you landed up into healthcare, where exactly Fortrea came in, the other organizations where you worked in. So, if you can tell me a little bit about your career journey. So, what led you, into customer experience, market insights, into this healthcare space?
Sure, absolutely. Um, I actually started my career in pharma over 18 years ago. I'm a pharmacologist by education. When I started my journey, I was with the clinical pharmacology and pharmacokinetics departments in one of the pharmaceutical industry. And after that, I shifted my role, which was focused heavily on market research and analytics. So at the time, I was fascinated that how data could tell you a story, right, about the unmet needs, the emerging trends, the historical behavior, the patient journeys, and everything on that part of this one. Over the years, I worked across competitive intelligence, forecasting, brand planning, marketing planning, which actually gave me a little bit of front row seat to see how decisions in healthcare can shape patient lives, right? At the end, in pharmaceutical domain, we work for the patients. What really drew me into the customer and market insights was that realization of the data is alone not enough, right? First, you need to know how you interpret the data, how you can connect it back to the human needs, and that's where the real changes actually happens. That's
Correct.
where it led me to a role where I could combine the data expertise, what I was actually gathered from my past experience, with a deeper focus on the people, patients, sponsors, investigators who are behind the numbers, and then try to make insights out of it where we can actually impact the lives of the patients with the medicine what we're working on.
Got it. Okay. So a little bit, I can understand that you've been here, impacting a lot of lives from, healthcare specialists to the participants who come down on the clinical research and all those things. So, at this point of time, if I say that, if you're measuring customer experience over here, so how does it contribute to improving the overall experience of your clients or partners or whosoever is the participant in terms of coming down to the trials and all.
So, definitely. So at Fortrea, I lead customer market insights function. So my team, we can say that it basically act as the listening post for the organization, right? We gather feedback from our customers, we gather feedback from investigators, site coordinators, sites, and anybody whom we work with. And then we try to combine this feedback with the market intelligence and try to translate into the actionable strategies. It's just not identifying the pain points, but how proactively it can be addressed by shaping up some of the solutions. So, for example, like if we see that there's a feedback coming from the investigators or maybe site coordinators about a certain region or a
Hmm.
certain therapeutic area, We work with the operations teams to streamline either the processes or communication. Our role is to make sure that the decision is actually rooted in a clear understanding of the customer's voice, whether that's a global pharma company running a trial or a site working with the first time. So from there, we take the data, we make it into an action, and then finally translate into the feedback, primarily coming into the overall work, what we do.
Got it. Okay. So, looking at your background, I've seen that you come down from a very strong data background, like,
Yes.
working on analytics, looking at the outcomes and everything. So, what made you, start focusing on customer experience? So, what was that reason that you think that, that you thought that this should be a particular process where you need to actually capture voice of customer or voice of partner or whosoever the participant over there is?
I think it was a natural evolution. Data has always been my strong point because I've worked for my half of my career in that one. But when I started to realize that if we only look at the operational and the functional KPIs, right, we may be missing a bigger picture over there, right? Like, give an example, you could have a project which you delivered on time within the
Hmm,
budget, but the sponsors still not feeling the fulfillment or maybe feeling overwhelmed when you look at the overall closure of this one. That's where the
got it.
customer experience comes into the picture. It's about connecting the dots between the performance metrics, what we have it, and the human
Hmm,
experience in that one. So in healthcare, what happens is these experiences actually have a ripple effect, right? A satisfied either customer or investigator is more likely to give you business again, right? A positive patient experience can actually boost the recruitment and help you in the retention in that one. Once you see that, okay, once you combine the data plus
hmm,
the experience which is coming from the human side, and you start getting some of the tangible benefits in terms of the overall experience, there's no going back, right? That's where basically I felt it, okay, that why don't I leverage the data background I have it, understanding of the pharmaceutical space, and then some of the areas of the insights which is coming from the human side by touching base with them in different ways, and then try to turn into an actionable strategy, which made me move from data to a customer experience perspective.
got it. Okay. 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 So, for a lot of people over here, including me, and though we have a very decent understanding what Fortrea does, but for a lot of people over here, it would be new because I would say CROs, like the clinical research organizations, would be, pretty much unknown for a lot of people. So, just for all those people who are here, who are listening to us, or who will see this particular thing in the future, so I just want you to, brief us a little bit about what Fortrea does, like a CRO, Fortrea being over there, or any other CRO. What do they do? How exactly, the process takes place over here at Fortrea.
Sure, absolutely. CRO, as you mentioned, Jayesh, CRO is basically a clinical research organization. What we generally do is that we are a partner to a pharmaceutical and a biotech company,
Hmm,
and we help take a potential treatment, like which is in the lab, to a real
hmm,
world use by managing the clinical trial processes for our customers, right? That includes multiple things. It includes designing the protocol, designing the study, recruiting the patients and sites, managing the regulatory submissions, monitoring the trial, collecting the data, and analyzing the data, and everything, right? It could be parts of the study or it could be the complete whole study as well, depending upon how we work with the customers. Fortrea operates globally. It's a global organization. So we go across different therapeutic areas, across different geographies, and across different regulations. From a simple term, think of us as a bridge between a scientific breakthrough in the lab and the moment it becomes an approved therapy or a treatment which is available to the patient. So we are the organization who works in that area where we try to bring um, a drug or a dosage live to the patients. That's primarily what a CRO does is.
got it. Got it. So it's, as you mentioned, that it's a bridge between. a pharmaceutical company which is manufacturing a drug and
Right.
bringing it down to the ground to the people who are actually utilizing that drug. So
Yes.
you basically cater the entire experimentation of that drug being manufactured and how exactly the symptoms and everything in the market would be. So you do that clinical research and those trials, human trials, I would say, or those kind of things which help you out in terms of doing the analysis and going forward or going back to the I would say the pharmaceutical companies just to give them that what exactly the medicine and everything is doing.
Absolutely. So a CRO is basically a organization which touches with a lot of people, like a lot of
Hmm.
ecosystem, and that one is there.
Hmm.
So we work with our customers, pharmaceutical or biotech, to ensure that they have the clinical trial what they need, which they
Hmm.
need to submit as a part of their regulatory approval,
Hmm.
and conduct and help them in terms of all different kind of activities, what is possible to bring a medicine to a patient, and then do the analysis, do everything what they need, monitor clinical trials, look at the patients, look at the investigators, sites and everything, and that way, and then finally help them maybe in submitting the data to the regulatory agencies. And once it becomes approved, then the medicine comes to the market for the patients to use it.
Okay. So I have a very this might sound very basic, but I want to understand who exactly is an actual customer over here. Like, is it the pharma company or the patients, the doctors, or the investigators?
It's definitely more than just the pharma company. Our primary sponsors, if we say, that becomes the pharmaceutical or the biotech company, because those are
Hmm.
the company who does the research, who has the
Hmm.
product, which we would be utilizing in the clinical trials. But when we think of our customer, we generally think of an ecosystem, right? Um, Pharma and biotech are the primary one, definitely because they are the direct customers, what we have it. But for a clinical trial, patient is at the core, because at the end, you are making or producing some medicines which is going to change some patient's life, right? And
Correct.
without patients, you cannot do a clinical trial. And if we need patients, we need principal investigators, we need site staff, we need
Hmm.
healthcare professionals, which also plays a very critical role in terms of conducting clinical trial. So they are the ones who are interacting with patients directly, right? So for us, when we look at from our direct customers, we say it's the pharma and biotech. But when we look at from the customer as an experience, right, we include everybody, right? It's not about a single relationship, but it's about a multi-touch with the different kind of people to ensure that we have a seamless experience across all those stakeholders who are involved in a clinical trial. Everybody has an influence on the success of the clinical trial, whether it is an investigator, study coordinator, healthcare professional, CRO, our colleagues, right, our partners works with them, and then the biotech and the pharma companies as well. So it's basically an ecosystem, Jash.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So, Vikrant, this is basically, I would say, this is pretty complex healthcare setting, right? This is not just, patient going to the hospital, getting treated, coming out. So we are measuring a customer experience there as an OPD, IPD, or those kind of things. This is very different, right? So,
Correct.
how does, I would say, it is different from a traditional CX. Like when you're capturing a voice of customer over here, right? So what does customer experience like mean in this complex healthcare setting, and how is it different from the traditional CX what we do, like whether in different
Correct.
kind of healthcare settings?
Yes, as you mentioned, Jayesh, that it is a regulated one, right? It
Correct.
is driven by complex. It is
Hmm.
complex in terms of overall process flow and everything. In most of the industries, like what we see, the CX is mostly about convenience, right? Let's take the Blinkit option or
Hmm.
maybe Zomato, right? It's convenience. It may be personalized. It may be looking only at the speed part of this one. But in clinical trials, these principles holds true. It's not that these principles are not applicable over here, but the stakes are very much high because
Correct.
what we do is we are dealing with the human lives. We're
Hmm.
dealing with the human health. Your stakes become exponentially high compared to the normal CX experience. And then there are stricter regulations and the tighter timelines and the longer timelines as well. When we look at Blinkit kind of a scenario, our customer experience is maybe half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hour, 5 hours, maybe 5 days. But when we look
Hmm.
at clinical trials, the journey here it is very long. It's often months, and sometimes years long. So a clinical trial may take from 6 months to 3 years to 5 years as well. That means there are multiple handoffs in between, right?
Correct.
That means that consistency, trust, and empathy are just become as important the factors what we have as a convenience, speeds, and personalization as well, right? Like for a trial, there's a possibility that people move in and out because it's a longer duration project.
Hmm.
Then from the customer experience perspective, how the handoffs has been done, how the consistency in terms of the overall relationship has been maintained, that becomes more important, right? Or how you're actually onboarding a new person from the customer side or from the investigator side becomes very, very important for us. So cons said that it is a complex one, but one needs to maintain a balance, right? Um, Wherein we need to see, okay, how the needs are also being kept or met properly while staying compliant, because it's a clinical trial setup, which is a regulated one. Both these parts are extremely challenging because of it longer duration of the perspective. But once you bring the medicine to the patients after all successful trials and approvals, you quite feel that it is rewarding because in that case, you're changing and making an impact into the overall patient lives.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, actually, as you were mentioning that there were a lot of regulatory bodies mentioned over here, or all those regulations which are required to do this thing would bring this down as complex as it is possible.
Right.
Got it. Got it. So, in the starting, while we were discussing that turnaround from data insights to customer experience, you said that you've been working on a lot of complex data and turning those into actionable insights and everything. So, can you please walk us through an example of how insights have driven real change in Fortrea? Like at Fortrea, if you've been measuring experience since a lot of time over there. So, just wanted to understand that what insights had, how these insights have actually helped you out in terms of, making decisions or coming up with certain, KPIs, or how exactly those help you out, actually calculating a change over there.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me give you an example from our customer NPS program.
Hmm.
After 2 or 3 ways, we started noticing that we've been praised on certain of our measures, like this, the scientific knowledge, what we have it, then the way we are communicating, we've been appreciated on that one. But we also felt that in one of the parameters, which is proactivity, right, we've been rated a bit low, and it's keep on fluctuating quarter on quarter basis.
Hmm.
Um, from the data, we understood that there is something which is primarily is not working. So what we did is then we went back to the operational team and tried to understand it. Okay, we've been seeing some of the fluctuations in this specific area, but all other areas we've been rated highly. What would be the possible reason in that one? And then we started to dig into a little bit more into the insights part of it. What exactly is the customer reflecting when they're saying the proactivity? Because it varies by customer. Some
Hmm.
customers has a different definition of proactivity. Some customers a different definition of proactivity. But we understood is that there is some bit of transition which needs to be managed, and that's where the whole thing is coming in that part. So we worked with our operational teams to really make sure, okay, wherever the productivity is working best, let's take the best practices from that one and try to implement those best practices in the areas where it is not working well. And in both the cases, after 2 or 3 quarters, we start seeing a change in the upward movement. That's where you see that, okay, once the data combined with the human voice, right, it drives the change and ultimately actually had an impact onto the overall performance metric as well.
Got it. Got it. So majorly again, like it's doing a backtrack in terms of understanding where exactly the flaws are, and then improvising and capturing those
Correct.
particular betterments and then replicating it to the different places.
Correct.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So, Vikrant, one more thing, because again, as I mentioned, healthcare. is different. The kind of healthcare you are, measuring is very different from a very common aspect. So, what are the, I would say, the data points which exactly you are gathering to understand experience? Like, you've been doing surveys, you might be doing
Mm.
interviews, a little bit digital
Correct.
analytics and those kind of things. So, what are those key data parameters which are actually, very important for you to measure?
Right. As you mentioned that we do quite a bit of this one, and,
Hmm.
and the reason of this is that because no single source tells you the whole story, right?
Correct.
It's a mix. We run structured surveys like customer NPS, site NPS, specific feedback for specific projects as and when it needed to really look at the quantified quantifiable trends because these
Hmm.
will give us okay how the trends are looking in terms of certain ratings and the parameters what we kept it, right? In addition to that, we also ask certain text related questions
Hmm.
specifically to our customers to really get to know the sentiment about what they are referring to because sometimes you see they have given a very good rating in the quantified data, but when
Hmm.
it comes to the text part, there is something which is may not be a problem now, but could be a problem later, right? So they're given some bit of
Got it.
the sentiment part of this one. So we do that one. In addition to that, we do in-depth interviews at certain stages of the project life cycle or the customer life cycle, wherein we go and have an independent checks with the customer. So it's when I say independent, it means that if a person is working on that project, none of the member of that team will go and connect with the customer. It's somebody who doesn't have the knowledge of the project will go and connect. The only
Hmm.
reason is to understand it from a very, very neutral perspective. Then we also do some advisory boards to really understand the why behind the numbers. We do monitor our operational and performance metrics and to see whatever changes we are doing, how quickly actually that is getting impacted into the operational metrics. When we combine all these things feedback together and then try to see the trends, that's where the real magic happens because then we can only see not then we can see not only what's happening but why it's happening and what to do about it, right? So that's how primarily we look at the data gathering part in the CX perspective.
Got it. Got it. And you mentioned that, with the quantitative data, you measure a lot of qualitative data as well, like the
Correct.
open text, right? And what I feel is that is a kind of a democracy where people actually put down how they exactly feel. Even
Correct.
giving a negative rating, I know someone feels negative about me, but what exactly is the reason? That qualitative part gives me an understanding. So, working in this human first environment, entire healthcare is basically a human first environment, I would say. So how do you map that, quantitative data with the qualitative one, like the emotional ones, I would say, right? Where someone has given you a negative, feedback about any kind of an aspect where we exactly you've been measuring. So how do you map that data together?
I think it's very important to have both, right?
Correct.
Quantitative data tells you one story, and qualitative data sometimes it gives you the same story what is being told by the quantitative data, but it can give you the another story as well.
Correct. Yeah.
So generally, we define it as that it is basically having two lenses, right?
Hmm.
So quant data gives you a wide angle lens, right? It gives you broader picture. It tells you the size and scope of the issue, right? Sometimes you can get to know the issue very quickly from the data where it's coming. So the ratings are completely negative,
Hmm.
or the ratings are on the lower side, right?
Hmm.
Which will give you that way. But the call data generally we say it is that it is a very zoom lens. There you get to see the human side of the feedback and sometimes the nuances behind the numbers which is being given. We have seen in our feedback surveys that we have received very positive rating, but when asked in the text feedback, there are certain comments which actually is going to be a potential issue or a problem, or maybe they are feeling that it could is an area for us to work with. We are very happy with
Correct.
overall what all parts happens, but there's some of the pointers they would want to work in that one. And these are the emotional, you can say pointers which you also mentioned, the qualitative feedback is mostly emotional and it matters a lot. Um, like just give you an example that one of the site we got very good score, but in the passing they mentioned that okay, they might be overwhelmed with the too many systems people are using, right? But if you only look at the score, it's good. You don't need to worry about anything. Everything is very rosy. You can go ahead, do the work, and continue the same space. But when you look at the call inputs, what you're getting, then there's something that's an early sign we need to work on. So what we do is we analyze both in parallel. Once we analyze it, we go back to the operational team. They also have some feedbacks. They also connect with the customer on different time frames, combine that one together, and then try to see, okay, what could be the best possible way wherein we can resolve this one. And then we pass it to the decision makers to see that, okay, this is the human side of the feedback, what we're also seeing, despite the results, what we're getting into the quantified numbers, right? That's where majority of the action happens. So we try to combine every time we do the analysis of the call and quant together, and then we move forward with any decision what we take. We do not take single metric into the consideration at one go.
Got it. Yeah. So even if even if I interact with anyone, I definitely say that measuring that qualitative data, capturing that qualitative data is pretty important because
Yeah,
see, even whatever ratings, if I say you get to understand, you reach out to the people who are negative. Someone who's given you a positive is absolutely fine, but someone who's a neutral, right? I would say one of the most dangerous people in the entire segment are the neutral ones because
correct.
you don't know how they are feeling. They can be anywhere in the picture. Someone who's negative is easier to tackle, right? I know what is wrong with them, but at one point of time, someone who hasn't, is just saying it's okay. Like
Yes,
it's pretty, I would say, it's pretty difficult to take out that information that what is just okay and what is not.
correct. And you're absolutely right. So if there are not many people sitting on the fence, which is neutral, right? They can swing your score or feedback to any side, depending upon
Absolutely.
if no action is being taken. Within Fortrea, we actually have very dedicated program who manages these people. We
Hmm.
really give a lot of importance to the people who are on the fence as well, and trying to understand that what could actually make them move towards the positive side rather than actually going to the negative side, because they are at the fence, they can move any way if no action is taken. So we do connect with them on a regular basis depending upon the kind of feedback we have it and from the delivery teams we interact with, and then see if there is a way we can work around the areas or the issues they actually feeling, and then take it into the positive direction. So those are very, very critical people who sits on the fence.
Yeah, absolutely. Because see, I'll just share an example over here, a little bit funny as well. So I remember I was interacting with a gentleman. He was from a retail industry. So we were discussing. We were just telling him that neutrals have to be taken care of. Right. So he was like, "Nahin, nahin, whosoever is there in the neutral, it's perfectly fine. Why do we have to touch them and that kind of a thing?" And you won't believe 3 months down the line, their neutral increased, their NPS dropped
Absolutely. Yeah.
because they were working on the negative one, the people who were giving a negative score, but at one point of time their volume of the neutrals actually
Mhm.
increased and the positive one became neutral. So at one point of time the frequency with which they were working in negative utna hi tha, and the positive decreased and their NPS dropped.
Correct.
And
No,
the same people came to us in terms of understanding that now what exactly needs to be done. Right. So we included the same program, what we were doing for the negative people to replicate it for the neutral ones, and then gradually their NPS actually started checking in. So that's what the things, we a person who's pretty silent is one of the most dangerous person inside the room, I would say.
absolutely. You're absolutely correct on that one. And those are the people you really need to manage in addition to
Absolutely.
your negatives and the positive ones. You need to stay consistent with the positive. You need to work towards the negative. And for the passives, which is from NPS perspective, you really need to work on them to make them into the promoter side of this one.
Absolutely. I 100% agree on that.
Yeah.
So coming to the next part, Vikrant, I want to understand in terms of a little bit on the innovation and challenges what exactly you've been facing. So if you can help me out in terms of understanding some of the most common CX pain points you see in the clinical trial industry, or either for any patients or sponsors or investigators or anyone, like what are the most common factors which you feel is a major pain point for you while capturing feedback or doing any kind of an analytics or something like that?
No, absolutely. Any industry has pain points, right?
Yeah.
And for us, it is a more regulated one dealing with the human lives, right? So there's a lot more work to be done in this area. So, like for patients, if I say for patient perspective, so one of the biggest pain point is often around understanding the trial, right? What's involved, what's expected of them, and how this participation might impact their daily lives, right? That's from the patient perspective. So we need to make sure that, okay, the patient's pain points is being duly considered in that one. Now, for site and investigators would be that the challenge could be administrative one, right? There are too many systems, too many forms to be filled, or there are parallel processes which is running, which need to be taken care of. And for the sponsors, it's visibility, where my trial is going, at what stage my trial is right now,
Mm.
being able to see the real-time progress and risk. Is it delayed? How the recruitment is happening? Is recruitment on track? Which site is working good? Which site is not working good? So that's where the majority of the pain point happens. And at Fortrea, you can say as a company, we work on tackling these pain points wherever it is needed, whether it's a patient, investigators, sponsors, we all work with them to really make sure that all the pain points have been taken care of.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So, Fortrea being such a big organization, you function in multiple countries, right? Multiple, I would
Mm.
say, from countries to environments to different people to everything. Like from, I would say, even if I talk about India, every 100 kilometer, the scenario change, right?
Correct,
So,
correct.
how do you ensure like a consistent or a positive experience across geographies and cultures?
So we are a global organization,
Yeah.
right? We operate a lot many countries, and
Hmm.
then when we operate a lot many countries, because it is a regulated environment, this
Hmm.
regulation comes into the play, right? So you have global
Hmm.
regulation, then you have local regulation. However, to maintain consistency, you really need to have a global framework in place. So
Correct.
what we have is that we have core customer experience principles and processes which apply everywhere, because
Hmm.
which are the most standard one which apply everywhere, like communication standards, escalation protocols, standard operating procedures for certain part of the work what we do, and the feedback mechanisms in place, right? Um, we also empower our regional teams to adapt to the local cultural norms, because that's where it is required. Maybe it's a language, maybe it's a regulatory requirement, so they can take up the global framework what we have in place and then adopt it according to the needs of the local perspective. Then there are global training processes in place, regardless of location, regardless of the place. We primarily trying to train everybody in the organization. Then we measure our success to service, what we discussed earlier. Then we also look at the operational metrics to see that, okay, it's working consistently across the regions, across the countries, wherever it is required. And if we need to fine tune it, depending upon some of the local needs, local perspective, to the regional needs, or some of the protocol designings, then we do it in that depending time frame. But we do have some of the global things which is completely running across the globe.
Got it. Got it. So I would say, globally, there are certain aspects which are to be maintained, and then every region, every country would have certain different, like internal processes which exactly they follow. So it's a
Correct.
mixed match of the entire region, country, and cultures and everything, I guess.
Yeah, that is what primarily would be needed, because though it is a global trial or a study, but sometimes there's some local nuances which needs to be taken on the account. But that should also align with the SOP and the global processes what we have it.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. So, coming down in terms of understanding a little bit, the future of CX in healthcare, right? I would definitely, because you've been there in the industry so long, you have a, uh, you know, immense amount of experience over there, right? So I want to understand from you. So what trend are you excited about in the intersection of CX and data, right? And in terms of healthcare, healthcare innovation.
A lot has changed, and
Yeah.
it's changing. I think technology is making quite a bit an impact in this one. So one of the most exciting trend, which is recently shifting, is that we're becoming more proactive. Earlier, the feedback was mostly reactive.
Hmm.
We used to gather the feedback once the project is closed, right? Or once one quarter is done, then you send out the feedback and get the feedback onto the project. But now, with the better digital tools, better analytics which is available, we can pick up the experiences, signals in real times and try to act it before it becomes an escalation, right?
Hmm.
Another trend is that we are trying to integrate, or I think this is happening at the global level, the voice of patients and the sites into the designing of the study itself, wherever it is possible. We're trying to see more of co-creation than become it is just one-sided kind of a thing, where everybody has some bit of say in terms of shaping either the protocols or some other areas to make the participation more practical and appealing, right? The convergence of operational and experiential data is very much important now, but with the help of technology, it is now getting integrated. Because when you overlay how people feel with what's actually happening, you can unlock the far deeper insights in the
Hmm.
perspective. So becoming
Absolutely.
more proactive in the CX area is one trend which is going to change a lot many things what has not happened in the past.
Hmm. Got it. Got it. So again, yeah, see, actually, proactive approach has already, I would say, helped a lot of organizations, and that is something in terms of the kind of structure you are working in. It's pretty
Correct.
important, right? Because we can't just wait for an outcome to come and then act on it before. If
Correct.
there's something which is happening or bothering someone or any kind of a partner to any healthcare associate to anyone, it's good to have that understanding prior and working on it, making sure it doesn't happen again, and so forth.
Yeah, because ultimately the way we work is dealing with the patients, right? And that's where the proactivity will help that those things doesn't escalate too much. Because ultimately it deals with the clinical trials where the patients are getting dosed, patients are getting the medications. We just want to make sure that okay, everything runs smoothly. So the reactive to proactive shift is what primarily I'm very excited about, and I think this is going to change the overall CX industry.
Correct. So, Vikrant, there's a lot of buzz in the market about AI, artificial intelligence, right? There's a lot of buzz about the real-time analytics and these kind of things. So, I want to understand from you within this particular industry, like the CRO and all this particular thing, right? So, how do you think these real-time analytics, AI, artificial intelligence, and if I talk about patient-centered design, right? So how does these kind of technologies are reshaping your trials or conducts and any kind of an experimentation which exactly you've been doing?
I think in the last 2 to 3 years, there's an outburst of technology, right? We have
Correct.
GPT, now ChatGPT 5 has come. There's a lot of AI, augmented analytics, the real-time
Hmm.
analytics has come. So technology is going to be a great equalizer in the clinical trials. Um, Real-time analytics means that sponsors and sites can spot the risks. Even we can spot the risk as a CRO before they emerge, right? Which will help in taking the proactive action rather than waiting for a monthly report, which used to be the scenarios a few years back.
Correct.
With the AI now, we can actually predict what the challenge is likely to happen based on the past simulation of the data of the similar kind of study. It has also helping in the site selection. They are making the prediction, okay, these sites can help you recruit these patients based on the volume of the patient which has been seen in the past, and making some recommendations on that part. Also giving us some of the perspective on whether the patient will drop, what could be regulatory issues, challenges, and everything which comes in that way. So overall, I would say that technology is going to add a lot of positive factor when it comes to home-based data collection, telemedicine visit, like using wearables to get the metrics of the patients, getting
Hmm.
electronic consent on time, right? So there's a lot of areas where technology is making an impact, and it will going to make a significant impact. That one. The goal is not to replace the human touch, because that's where the whole human side experience comes into the play,
Correct.
but to use technology to remove some of the frictions so that the patients and sponsors um, can focus on basically the science and the care what they need. That's primarily going to be the goal. Overall, from a tech side of it, I think next 3 to 5 years is to be watched out. And okay, we will have a lot more covered in the technology part, which is going to add value into the overall clinical trial domain.
Got it. As you were mentioning, like the next 3 to 5 years would be very crucial, right?
Correct.
So, is there any kind of a next evolution, like in terms of customer experience in the healthcare region, which you're looking forward to? Like, any innovation which you have in mind, you think that this will, help you transform, organizations like Fortrea into a very different space altogether?
I see that where we are headed, um, the CX will not be a separate function. The customer
Correct.
experience will not be a separate function. It will be embodied in every role, in every part
Hmm.
of the organization. Operational excellence and customer experience will become inseparable, because you're able to do a lot more with the data what we have it, and with the insights what we're getting from the data, and then getting back into the operational part of this one. They mostly will be measured together. That's what primarily the role of CX going to be this one. We'll also see a lot more personalized trial experiences as the
Hmm.
technology adapts, which will adapt to the different needs of the patients and sites, rather than to everyone ex, rather than expecting everyone to fit to one process, right? So that's where it's going to come through. I think the next phase will be about trust, because when you have so much of technology coming into,
Hmm.
so much of data analytics coming into this one, people will might have a challenge in onto the data or their insights coming through. So the trust will become an important part.
Hmm.
Um, Science is moving forward, technology is moving very forward. The AI organization needs to stand out, that combines innovation with the transparency and empathy towards the overall clinical trial process. So that's going to be, from my perspective, is going to be the next evolution in the CX in the healthcare domain.
Got it. Got it. So, we talked a lot about CROs, healthcare, and these kind of things. So, coming down, because see, we named this podcast "Human Behind CX," right? So, we wanted to understand that, from all those CX individuals who've been, having that baton in their hand in terms of measuring CX, coming down in terms of improvements and those kind of things. So you as an individual, every individual has certain principles and philosophies which helps them in terms of their working structure, to their thought process and these kind of things. So I want to understand from you, Vikrant, so what is that one principle or philosophy that guides your approach to CX?
Okay. There's one thing which we definitely apply at Fortrea, and it's close to me as well.
Hmm.
For me, it's very, very simple, that listen with the intent, um, and then take the action, what you have to listen. Um, Listening is not just about hearing the other person's thought, it's about reading between the lines, it's about recognizing the emotions, what the person has displayed while saying certain things, and then take those emotions or take those feedback, um, with the operational team or with anybody who you'd want to work with and try to make some change into that one. And this is what we do at Fortrea very, very religiously. And I mentioned in my talk before that we have an independent person talking to a customer who is feeling a little bit dissatisfied with us. The only reason for that one is that we would want the independent persons to listen, understand the emotions, and bring that feedback to us so that it is not biased. And then after that, we'll be able to take the action. So for me, it is very, very important that, okay, we should listen with an intent and after that, take an action on that one.
Actually, a pretty nice thought because most of the time, even if you ask me, coming down from a background where we interact with a lot of clients or prospects or anyone, we've seen that listening is actually a pretty difficult skill. Like
Right.
it's more towards hearing and reacting rather than listening.
Correct.
Right. So you're bang on in terms of practicing this kind of thing. This is something I would say it is one of the most important aspects where exactly coming down from from any kind of resolving issue to any kind of a problem which is occurring inside the entire organization. So absolutely bang on that. So Vikrant, you have a lot of experience in CX analytics and these kind of things. So because there might be and a lot of people listening to us who come down from a CX background or any kind of a background. So I want you to give them any kind of an advice or any kind of a process which you follow as an advice to those CX professionals, to anyone coming down from a regulated or a complex industry.
So I think that this is what we generally do. And most of the time we do it, that we make things very complex. We got one feedback and then we try to get into the details of the feedback and
Hmm.
understand, okay, what can be done, what all we should do, what all changes we should make. Sometimes it is difficult because when we work with a regulatory kind of a scenario, it's very difficult to make instant and sweeping changes, right?
Hmm.
But that does not stop us on doing anything. Take something which is very, very small and start with it. Maybe making one change in any of the process, which is quick, which can give something to the customer, can actually bring a lot more results in terms of CX experience, right? Rather than making it complex, doing all different kind of big things, which may have an impact, but it might take longer time for you to act upon this one. So regulated environment, absolutely there. It's a compliant driven, absolutely there. You don't need to worry about those areas. Just take some small thing which you can take it up and then work on it. And then slowly, slowly things will start into the place.
Got it. Perfect. So, one last question. I've been asking a lot of questions from you, right? So, one last one. So, what's that one experience, personal or professional, that is stuck with you and remind you why the human behind, CX matters?
Right. I think few years ago, there was a there's an event which was happening in my previous organization, and then one of the person got an award for proactive communication and proactivity, basically proactivity. And this is one of the area where we have not seen much of things coming through.
Hmm.
And I actually went and asked that person, okay, this is one area which we always wanted to get something, but we never get that one. How did you manage to get an award in proactivity, which is very difficult to achieve? And he just mentioned one thing that I just tried to stay connected with my counterpart and then see what his needs are. And if there is any way I can do something which he may not have anticipated, but I can think of. Sometimes it does not pay off. He may not need that one, but I have worked on that part. But sometimes it actually helped the person because he may not have thought through, but I was
Hmm.
able to pick the cues from that one. So that's actually stayed with me for quite some time, and for now as well, in a way that, okay, is there any way you can pick up the cues from the conversation wherever it is not explicitly either mentioned, right, or displayed, and then you do something which they've not been expecting, right? And that actually helped the person in terms of whatever the work they're working on. So that is one area where we would, I would definitely want to go, and that stayed with me for that one. So that conversation is still is like that. Okay, is there any way I can adopt it in my day-to-day working and try to work in the way the person was working and get something from the proactivity part of it?
That's a pretty good, example as well. So, Vikrant, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. It's pretty incredible to hear, your side of customer experience, which is pretty high complex and, high stake. This is one of the most high stake industries, I would say. Right. So, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. It's pretty incredible to, hear all those particular things. And it's actually very empathetic and human in terms of telling us those particular things, how exactly these functions. Because to be honest, even as a layman, whether me or anyone, the kind of industry you are in, those clinical research organizations, there's a lot of, I would say, thought towards how exactly things function over there. Right. So thank you so much for sharing these things again. And, and thank you for being here. You being the first guest, this is one of the most privileged part for us. Uh, and all those listeners who are there, thank you for you too. And, thank you again for you all as well. So, being the part of the first podcast, of those human behind CX. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Vikrant. And we'll make sure sometime next time again you come and we talk about something else apart from what we've talked about.
Well, thank you, Jesh, for having me here. It was a wonderful conversation. I'm glad that I could share some of the nuggets from my experience. Nice connecting. And if there are any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You know where I
Yes, so anyone who's there, Vikrant is there over LinkedIn, Vikrant is there at other platforms as well. You can very well reach out to him and ask all those questions which you are, interested in asking of. And then if you have anything with me as well, please let me know. I'll be happy to help over there as well. Okay, then.
am.
Thank
See
you,
you.
Vikrant. Thank you so much.
Bye. Take care.
Bye. You too.